Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Castlevania Seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix. And I really didn't enjoy this that much. Because I had watched the first season at one point, and was like, okay. And then I'd heard some more about it, so I'm like, alright, went back, watched season 1 again, watched season 2, and it's just. I think it's okay. I mean, it's got some good character development when it goes into it, but the overall plot kind of just sits there, and you get kind of bored. So, the first season, which I will mainly refer to as an extended trailer, to be honest with you, because we get introduced that here's Wallachia. It's 1455 at first, and this woman's like, "Hey, Dracula, I want to be a doctor." And it's like, "Why are you fucking with me? I want to be a doctor." And then he like shows her around a little bit. It's like, "Yeah, teach me shit. This is cool. I don't want to be like a weird witch woman. I just want to fucking help people." It's like, all right. So teaches her and everything, and then we get like 20 years later, and people are like, "She's a witch, burn her." And then you got this bishop dude being like a dick. It's like, all right. It's like everybody on most like out of a level kind of sucks. So it's like, ah, shit. So they burn her. Dracula's like, he'd been walking to Earth pretty much at his wife's request to show that like not all humans are bad. Gets back home. Old lady's like, yeah, they burned her as a witch. And then he's like, what? And then he like goes in the flames like, the fuck you do? And like, we burned a witch. It's like, ah, you fucking pissed me off now, motherfuckers. You got a year. Get out. I'm coming for you. And he, of course, is getting ready to unleash a holy hell. Everybody's like, fuck this shit. And even the Archbishop comes out and like, hey, yeah. It gets to a year later. There's a bullshit. Fuck that Satan dude. And then it starts raining blood and shit. And like Hellbees come out and start like killing people and shit. He's like, I told you to move. And you did. And haboosh. And hell is unleashed. We see this one dude's like, Dracula, stop this shit. And of course, they fight, and that's about it. And then we kind of like go a little bit further, and we see Trevor Belmont is pretty much drunk at a place, and people are bad and his family. It's like, yeah, screw those people. And it's making it like screw the aristocracy, but these are essentially like the Belmonts are like supernatural hunters, demon hunters, analogous to like supernatural hunters. And he fights them, kicks their asses, but kind of gets his ass kicked too. And he's like, alright, fuck this shit, fuck the demon horde shit. And walking out, he gets to this town of Greshit and sees that they're kind of like fucked up as well, trying to gather information. There's this other group called the Speakers, which are like oral history, nomad kind of people. And towns kind of view them like stupid kind of outsiders, and that's why the like demon hordes are there. And of course, we get the bishop that burnt Dracula's wife Lisa is in there trying to keep control and use his like assassin priests, which you kind of need a little bit more information on, because it's like they're just, I mean, yeah, they're walking around like priests and shit, but it's like the kind of linking up of those kind of like orders of like, hey, let's study the theology, hey, let's know how to use knives and bows and shit. Trevor's like, fuck this shit. He tries to get the Speakers to leave because his family and the Speakers are like usually okay. He's like, my granddaughter. What? She went to go find this like mythical sleeping warrior dude. Fuck. Okay. And then he goes underneath, fights Cyclops. Okay, action scene. That's one of my other kind of things. I don't mind the animation style. It's just it gets really kind of weird in certain instances where it kind of isn't as fluid as it should be. And the action scenes are just kind of like okay. They're not hard to follow, but it just really doesn't do anything for me. The only one that really does something for me is kind of at the end of this one and the end of the second season. So he's able to find the granddaughter. She gets de-stonified because the Cyclops continue to stone, and he's trying to tell him to get out. He's like, we're not gonna leave. Fine, fuck, whatever. We're fighting the assholes. And she's like, okay. And there's some friction between Trevor and Sypha, the granddaughter, but we'll you see that they like get to a pretty good friendship. So they do what they need to and like protect the populace. The bishop dude gets pretty much eaten by one of the demon hell horde people, but Trevor's able to organize an effective offensive and save a good amount of people, even though like the people also fucking went. One of the priest dudes like, fuck that dude, and he's like, no, they've been lying to you. And of course this is a worked up frenzied mob that's pretty much ready to do a pogrom and kill anybody, and they're like, somebody ordered us this, and kill that dude's like, oh shit, I didn't fucking want that to happen. Ugh. But they're able to help the people, but then they get like shellacked down through a couple levels and find a coffin, and we find out it is Dracula's son Alucard. He kind of fights them to kind of see what's going on. Sypha is more kind of like the mage kind of person, which is fine. It's just we don't know how magic works in there, and then these people can just kind of like do a lot of shit without like getting as fatigued as they should be. It's kind of weird. I don't mind that. I just need to know what the rules are of the magic for what's going on. And it gets even kind of worse later, because in the second season it introduces Forge Masters, which the understanding of the power that would need to go along with that is like, what the fuck? So Alucard's like, alright, cool. Let's go beat my father. And he's like, yeah. And I like their three-way dynamic. Alucard's kind of the weird kind of wheel out, but him and Trevor have an interesting kind of like antagonistic, like, you know, that friend that you can like shit talk with and neither of you really mean it, but you do it to get some kind of reaction out of it, but you know that if it came down to it, you'd like got each other's backs. That's pretty much what Trevor and Alucard have, so that's pretty cool. And Sypha's just like, fucking idiots. Well, and that's where like the first season ends. It's like 4 episodes, like what the fuck? So then the second season is 8 episodes, and we introduce this now plot of like what's going on with Dracula and his forces. Dracula doesn't care and pretty much wants to die, and there's rest of these vampire generals pretty much doing like low-key Game of Thrones kind of level bullshit in the background that I honestly do not give a shit about. And he also has 2 generals that are humans that want to wipe out the human race. It's like, alright, what's your shit after this? Dracula wants to wipe out all of humanity, and he doesn't care that it would also kill the vampires as well. Which I would think if the vampires heard about would have been like, do you fuck? No. Hector wants to do it on a more kind of merciful route, and Isaac is just like, I don't give a shit, I'm going to do this. And that's pretty much it. Hector does stuff and has like undead puppies and shit as his Forge Master power, and Isaac just wants to kill everybody. And that's the extent of their characters. And then Carmilla, this lady vampire, comes in, spouting kind of like typical kind of lines of shit. It's like, okay, the timeline, women usually are not in positions of power, bringing that up, but they don't really do much with it. Her thing is to pretty much try and corner Dracula towards the end of the season and try and take power for herself. And I'm just like, you dumb bitch, what? And, oh god, that shit going on, I just didn't care about. Now, on paper with the description that I've read, yes, it would be right up my alley to see these kind of maneuverings and everything, but we've got 8 episodes and it's done in such a way that I literally do not give a shit about. What I wanted was to see Alucard, the Belmont, and Sypha go and fight Dracula. That's it. I'm like, alright, you got a good setup here. And then you're doing all this other stuff. It's like, there's got to be a plot that reins us in somehow. It's really kind of weird, because in most of my kind of reviews, we get into a position where the plot demands that certain shit happens, and it happens. The plot needed to demand certain things happen in this, and it's kind of weird. I am usually more for a character-focused kind of one that drives the plot, but in this case, it's just all characters driving none of the plot whatsoever. It's like, Dracula's already set everything in motion, and we just want to see our heroes get to the point and do the kind of stuff. Because if it had followed some kind of stuff with, like, the whole kind of Castlevania games that this is based off of, I was expecting, okay, our heroes get up together, they decide to go in the castle, and then we do a season of pretty much them kind of working their way through the castle, get to that endgame boss, and we see them fight Dracula. We do see them fight Dracula, excuse me, and it's pretty fucking awesome, and I liked it. and it definitely delivered character moments with it too. But we had to get through a lot of shit for that to happen, where it was nothing. It's like, I don't care about Carmilla. I don't care about Hector. I don't care about Isaac. I don't care about any other vampires. I'm okay with them trying to go to the Belmont place to kind of figure out how to find Dracula's castle, because the fucking thing teleports everywhere. So they get there, they're like looking at stuff. Belmont gets the like Morningstar kind of attack thing, which was kind of cool. Got a sword. They're like looking through for a majority of the season, trying to figure out like, all right, how do we find the castle? Oh, Alucard finds this like scrying mirror, and then we get towards the end, and of course Carmilla has Hector do these beasts, sends the beast after the Belmont thing. We get an action scene of like Trevor. Pretty much John McCaining the shit out of these people, i.e. he's able to take them out, but he also kind of gets fucked up as well. Not horrendously, but he does get his ass kicked a good amount as he like is taking these guys out. And this is when like Sypha has gotten this like spell on Mach, and Alucard is able to find out where the castle is. Thing is, Carmilla does her like things like, let's go to this town so that way we can landlock them and do our effective annihilation genocide more effectively. Of course, they pretty much talk Dracula into it. The only one pretty much on Dracula's side at this point is Isaac. Even though Hector is still on the Dracula's side, he's pretty much being manipulated by Carmilla because he's stupid. Because that's all it is. I would say that the plot demands it, but there's not enough of his character in there to kind of effectively fight this thing, so I can't really even blame it on the plot at this point. Even though the plot demands, it's like, hey, he needs to be stupid and get sucked into this so that way he can be a slave to Carmilla later on. It's like, alright. But why does the plot demand this? Because it does? It's really weird, because you would think that the plot would kind of maneuver something, or something would happen to kind of like get all this stuff back into effect, but it's like, no, we're just going to do this random shit where it just starts spreading out everywhere. Sound familiar, Martin, Game of Thrones? Ugh. So, she's able to get them to do that, and has Hector revive the bishop dude so he can bless the water of the river, and that we can get that set piece of like her betraying Dracula's forces and using her forces to try and take the castle and become Vampire Bitch Queen. Which doesn't make any sense because it's an undead hell thing, and I don't know why it would be able to make anything holy, even if it's under the control of someone doing evil kind of forces. I don't know how it would be able to bless the water to make it holy water. Now, if it was a creature that broke out of that control and believed in that power of good and did it, yes, I would think it would be able to bless the water. But with what we're seeing here, it's like, what? But they just wanted to do this cool thing where we would see Dracula's vampires pretty much getting taken out, and then they're fighting because vampire civil war. And there's this one vampire dude, Godbrand. God, I'm getting even kind of bored relating this. Was just a kind of dick dude and tried to get Isaac on their side, but Isaac killed his ass and kind of like threw his ashes and shit. So a little bit of Carmilla's forces get into the castle, but around this time, Sypha is able to try and do her thing to kind of bring the castle to them, and the castle starts kind of like going. Dracula and his people are kind of like fighting the other people, and it's like doing some crazy ass shit. And Carmilla and Hector are like now in the town, and then it like kind of disappears. She's like, "What the fuck happened there?" Like holy water was like blasting through. Her forces are pretty much like decimated and shit fucked. And she's like, all right. So they got to deal with the people in there. Alucard and his homeboys roll up in the castle, and they team up very well, and we get better kind of action sequences here, i.e. where it's able to kind of like actually communicate what's going on character-wise, showing how they kind of like back each other up as they take out these like top vampire generals. Isaac is kind of like going with Dracula to kind of protect him in his study room, but Dracula's like, you know what, you're okay. I don't want you to die with me. Throws him through a mirror, and he's in the desert like, whatever, fuck. So then we start getting into it. Alucard wants him to stop. Dracula's like, no, I'm doing this for your mother, and they start smacking down pretty hard. Trevor and Sypha kind of get screwed up, and they perform more support as we actually see the titanic clash of Dracula and his son going at it. This was a really good fight scene as they're like blasting through the castle. We see a lot of the damage from the spell that Sypha did to kind of bring it there, melting the engine and everything, and that it uses to move. And Dracula's getting fucked up pretty well until they eventually get to Alucard's bedroom, and Dracula's like, I'm trying to kill my son. And of course Alucard had quipped that this is like the longest suicide note in history, but the thing is, he died when the woman he loved died, and he wants to die. And it kind of sucks because you see Alucard's like, damn it, I gotta kill him. He's in so much pain, I can't help him. And he stakes him, and he dies. And we see, of course, Trevor chop off his head. We see Sypha burn the rest of it. We see his kind of like soul or whatnot blast out, so we'll have to see if that kind of pops up later on. But that was a good bit. Of course, Sypha's trying to talk him down and everything. And I'm like, it's okay to mourn him. I mean, he was doing some shady ass shit, but it's okay to mourn him. He was your dad. And then we see that, of course, the Belmont and Dracula Castle homes are now close together. Alucard was like, I was going to pretty much make this my grave, but like, Trevor's like, nah, why don't you just protect both of these places and be a cool ass home dude? And it's like, alright, cool. But we see that this is still kind of affecting Alucard as he's crying at the end of it because he's lost his mother and he had to kill his father because he's in so much pain. He was going to commit genocide against the human race. It's fucked up. And more of an exploration and focus on that would have been better than also seeing vampire bitch woman pretty much make the Hector dude have a slave collar, punch his ass, and then like drag him behind her horse and like, you're gonna make me more of an army. And then of course Isaac's like gets beset upon these people at this oasis, and then he kills them all. He's like, I'm gonna make my own army and do my own shit. And like, I don't care about you people. And Trevor and Sypha have a discussion, and like Sypha wants to continue on more. She'll relate what's happened, but she was even in the Belmont library and like, my people are stupid. We should be writing this shit down so that we know everything. And she's like, I want to go around and help people. He's like, all right, cool. I'll roll with you. I'll do this shit. Because at first he's like, why would I do this? So she's like, well, even though this is like horrible, it's good for you and it helps you. So, all right. And of course, Alucard and them say goodbye in their funny ways, flipping each other off and saying fuck you. And that's kind of where it ends. And of course, there's season 3 and 4. And I don't know, man. I'd heard a lot of people liking this, and you can like it. That's cool. It's just nothing in here really grabbed me. And that's someone from someone who has liked playing the games as well, because I'm like, all right, yeah, you go through, you find all these puzzles and everything, and it's an interesting story of figuring out all the lore, because there's deep and interesting lore within the Castlevania universe. I'm just like, there's all this lore, you could go into all these kind of things, you could do like Monster of the Week kind of stuff as they're trying to track down Dracula. You could even do Monster of the Week kind of stuff within Dracula's castle as well, as they need to figure out stuff to defeat certain kind of bosses to go up further and everything. Hell, the character of Death did not pop up because you fight Death a lot, the actual physical manifestation of Death in the Castlevania games as well. I'm just like, you got good solid stuff here with characters, and I'm just not interested whatsoever. I was like, there are certain parts, of course, where I perked up, but overall, I was like, God, this is kind of boring me. Now, granted, there were some good quips and everything, but the animation didn't grab me. The action didn't grab me until certain circumstances, but it's like, ooh, that's kind of big stuff. Especially when I'm looking at an animated thing. Animation is like a key bit for it. And this was just like, alright. So if you're not into like gore and really dark kind of stuff, because the only kind of characters that you can really get connected to are Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha. Everybody else is pretty much a dick and an asshole. And it's really like having that kind of like dreary, dour kind of world. You're just like, I'm not really that into that. But granted, I'm not that much into it. If you're into it, go for it, because that's your thing. Go for it. Ain't no problem. Just not really for me. And I'm just like, all right, we'll kind of have to see how the other seasons shake out or whatnot, because once you take Dracula out of the equation, it's kind of hard to continue going forth, and especially it's like, oh, Isaac and Carmilla will be the next big bads that you could focus on. It's like, I literally didn't care about them when they were offshoots. Why should I fucking care about them when they're the big ones? I don't know. It just didn't grab me, really. So those are my opinions on the seasons. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.